Welcome to the Scandinavian Mind podcast and our interview series, Values in the Metaverse. On this show, we talk to designers, entrepreneurs, and experts working with concepts like digital fashion, Metaverse, and NFTs. As you may know, this was also the title of our latest print issue. The thought being, if we are going to create new digital worlds, we need to think about what kind of world we want to create, what values we are bringing into it. Our guest today is Laura Olin, Chief Operating Officer of the Finnish virtual reality studio ZOAN. ZOAN was responsible for creating the virtual twin of Helsinki 4 years ago, beating cities like Seoul and others by years. They recently launched their own metaverse called Cornerstoneland, where they are already selling virtual land. In this interview, Laura Olin underscores the importance of Nordic values when entering and creating the metaverse. I'm Conrad Olsen, founder and editor-in-chief of Scandinavian Mind. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter to stay updated on the latest news and learn about upcoming talks and events. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter. Here now, my conversation with Laura Olin. Enjoy. All right, so now I'm here with Laura Olin, Chief Operating Officer and partner of ZOAN in Helsinki, Finland. Laura, thank you so much for being with me now.
Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
You know, I always start with kind of a personal question in these conversations, and you know, when discussing the concepts of metaverses and NFTs and so forth. There's always this notion of you need to kind of wrap your head around new concepts, new ideas. And I always ask about your own personal moment. Do you remember when you realized kind of that metaverses was going to be a big thing? Was there like a penny drop moment for you that you can think back on?
Yes and no. Already back in 2015-16, so ZOAN started to create this virtual Helsinki, really like a 3D gaming engine-based version of some of the spots in Helsinki city center. That was more like a passion project, and then it proceeded into collaboration with the actual city of Helsinki.
Right.
But it's funny now that last autumn, when Facebook announced that they will change their name to Meta. So they really started this hype around Metaverse for like a sort of the mainstream people. So that's when we realized that, oh my God, this vision is exactly the same that we've had with, for instance, virtual Helsinki. Now they've just put a name on it, like big time. And suddenly we could tell people that, yeah, we work with metaverse content, and then everyone understands. So it's sort of putting these things that we have been doing, giving a context to that.
Well, let's get into that. I want to talk about Helsinki. Of course, I want to talk about the new metaverse that you have launched from ZOAN. But perhaps start with just describing ZOAN as a company and what you do.
Yes, so ZOAN is a company founded by Mika Roosendahl, still our CEO, and we already back then, his passion was to combine latest technology with really good-looking graphics. It's been inspired by Finnish companies like Artek, so that combined art and technology. So it's a little bit similar, but in a digital era. So, and this has really been the guiding principle throughout the years. Nowadays, we have around, I would say, 60 people working for us. It's a little bit hard because there are quite many freelancers. And at the moment, around 50% of our business comes from abroad, mainly from the US. But of course, we do have Nordic clients. We have some clients in Japan. And we've been dealing with quite a lot of different kind of themes when it comes to virtual content, culture, concerts, just businesses, B2B, marketing, things like that. So quite a big variety. But what is common is that they are all like based on 3D models, and we build it on gaming engine, inside a gaming engine, which in our case mostly is Unreal Engine. So that's what we do, really.
Right. So the gaming, and I mean, I think people understand. I mean, if you don't have any idea of the metaverse, I think people probably understands what a 3D image or a 3D rendering or a 3D modeling of something is. But what you're talking about with the game engine part, that's to me kind of where it becomes a metaverse. It becomes a 3D environment that you can sort of step into or move around in, whether it be on a computer or a VR headset or something like that. Would that be an accurate description?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, we can talk about 3D models, but if we want to have a really immersive and interactive experience, so we need a gaming engine for that. And that's why they are an essential part of creating metaverses.
Yeah, I was, found it funny when all these headlines came out a few weeks and months ago about Seoul being the first city that has a metaverse, and knowing that your work and what you've been doing, that Helsinki was actually 4 years prior, almost before its time, it feels like. But perhaps as a token of example, maybe talk about the Helsinki project more in detail. How did it come about, and the collaboration with Helsinki, the city?
Yeah, so I joined ZOAN 2016. So already a year before that, our designers had started to work with this idea that in the future there will be cities and physical places that need to be explored virtually, and Helsinki should be one of them. So by then we had started our business with doing 3D real estate. So we already got a bunch of houses that exist in central Helsinki. And then we started modeling Senat Square and some other places. And of course, by then it was for VR headsets. So what we would do together with Mika, that we would go around like different Helsinki offices and show them that, look at this virtual Helsinki. Wouldn't it be great to do some planning inside this kind of Helsinki? You could see how a new museum would look like or so. And everyone agreed. They thought that this is a fantastic idea, but it didn't really belong to them. So it was a little bit ahead of its time. But then in 2018, there was this conference, SLAS conference in Singapore, I think. And that's where Helsinki needed some really amazing content that they can fit into their quite little booth. And we told Helsinki and Business Finland that why don't we do it so that we'll just do this virtual reality experience. All you need are like virtual reality headsets, and we can build the content on the virtual center of Helsinki, on virtual Senat Square. And they thought it was a great idea, and we did it, and it was very popular. And after that, the city of Helsinki or Helsinki marketing people, they were like that, okay, for the next conference, let's do something even bigger and better. And that's when we started really working on this very photorealistic Helsinki that first became like an experience that you could visit with VR headset. And that was very much in line with the sustainability strategy of Helsinki, because the idea was that everyone should have a chance to come to Helsinki, even if they don't, for a reason or another, want to purchase flight tickets. So
Right.
that was a very nice idea. And that's sort of how it got started.
Yeah, and you actually created events within this virtual Helsinki. So not only did you have the 3D models of the houses, not only did you create the immersive environments, there was actually things happening in there, right?
Yeah. So, and this was something that happened when the pandemic started. So in 2020, we had actually already talked with Helsinki about the idea of organizing a concert inside virtual Helsinki.
Mm.
But then, thanks to the pandemic, in April 2020, Helsinki was a little bit worried that the celebration of the 1st of May will be a major risk. As there are usually like 50,000 people on Senate Square celebrating the spring. And of course, it was that year it was a really bad scenario. So Helsinki was trying to find a way to keep people indoors and organize some fun for them that they could do inside their own homes. And we were thinking about that we need to start offering this cool content to people who don't have VR headsets, but who could enjoy some entertainment that we could produce virtually. And then together with Helsinki, we decided that we need to organize a concert. And then this most popular rap group in Finland called JVG, so they had just canceled their tour, obviously. And we asked them that if they would be interested to perform, as they have this really popular song that tells about the 1st of May. So they said that they have absolutely no idea what we are asking them to do, but sure, they are available for a concert because everything is cancelled. And then we just started doing it, and it took about, I think it was only a matter of maybe 3 weeks, less than a month to put it together. But luckily, we had this virtual Helsinki, so we had a venue, and all we needed to plan was the actual show. And then we were so crazy that we thought that we would make it live, like really live. I don't really know why. In afterthought, we should have recorded it to make sure that everything goes smoothly, but we just thought that it's nice to do it live. And so what we did was that we put the band, they were filmed in front of a green screen. Then there was cameras filming them, and they were put inside the Unreal Engine, where the model of Helsinki was rolling with different kind of light effects for each song and so on. And then we would stream it out for people, and Finnish people could join with their mobile phones, with their avatars, to the virtual Senate Square. We would pick like 1,000 avatars, and the guys, as they were performing, they could see those avatars live. So we really wanted to create this interaction between the band and the audience. And so that's what happened. And despite all the risks, it went really well. We got like 700,000 live audience, and together with all the people who watched the recordings, the total number of public on that concert was 1.4 million, which is a relatively large amount of all the people in Finland. So that was really amazing, and it was such a great experience for everyone involved.
Well, I love that story, and thank you for sharing it in such detail, because because I think when talking about, what the metaverse is and what it can be used for, obviously using examples from gaming is one way to go, and there have been similar things going on in platforms like Fortnite and Roblox and so forth. But I think this really shows first of all, that you guys in Finland are really way ahead of us, the rest of us in the Nordics, in terms of these concepts, and ZOAN is really pioneering that. But also that this is an example of an activity that kind of transcends gaming. It's beyond gaming. It is kind of for everyone, and you did this kind of public event within a digital metaverse, also in collaboration with kind of like the government, or at least the city officials, so made it kind of like this official seal. So there's so much about this story that I find interesting in terms of where the metaverse can go, and I think the next step here would be to talk about your vision about what metaverse can become, because you actually recently launched your own metaverse called Cornerstoneland. So can you talk about the vision behind that, and what you hope to achieve with that, what you hope that will be used for?
Yeah, it's actually very interesting that you mentioned that sort of like the Nordic stuff and all of that, and actually a nice well, let's start from the beginning. Yes,
Sure.
we have indeed launched Cornerstone Land just in the beginning of January, end of December. And the idea is that it's a photorealistic metaverse. Of course, we've seen many metaverses with a lot of great activities, but we really want to bring the metaverse to the next level and make it as realistic as possible. So, you can check cornerstone.land and you can see some examples of, first of all, the island. It resembles Iceland a little bit, but it also has some other features, and then also something that's not possible in real life, like floating stones. And
It looks beautiful.
yeah, and then also the avatars are quite realistic, and the content that the plot owners can create will be made very realistic. So, of course, we've been talking a lot with people who are involved with architecture or design, as this is a great chance to really showcase your creativity as realistically as things would look like in real life.
Yeah, well, just on that note, I would just want to say I think that's one of the fascinating things about this metaverse, and I think part of when the skeptics talk about it is that they see this kind of cartoon-like or like very sort of pixelated worlds, and it's hard for people who are not into gaming and so forth to take it seriously. So I think what you're doing here is really the next step in sort of making these types of worlds more serious. And I love the point about using designers and architects. I really want to get into that, but just on the note of the Cornerstone Land, you also recently had your first kind of drop of real estate in it, or digital land, or I don't know how you define it, but you've dropped some NFTs
Yeah.
which people have bought.
Yeah, so we started with, of course, the idea is that there will be like public space, but then we are also selling, there are 100 plots of land, and we started by with an NFT drop of 10 plots in the beginning of February, and they sold out like in 1 hour. So that was a really good start. And with each plot, the buyer gets building credits. So it means that our professionals here at ZOAN will help to create that masterpiece you want to have there, if it's a house or if it's a garden or whatever it is. So we will help you to create that on your own plot. So and that's something that is going on. The plot sales, both, like there will be NFT drops, but then also private sales. And already the owners of the first 10 plots have got together. And it was like, I was just talking to my colleagues who is very much involved in this group. So So he just said that it's really great to see like what kind of work they are already doing together, that it's sort of like a creative crowdsourcing as the new members get together and start planning what they want to do there.
So they're creating their own little community already, talking to each other.
Yes, exactly. And I think that that's really the thing with the really fascinating thing with the metaverses, and why we believe that this cornerstone land will be successful, is that it's very much built on the Nordic values. Like, of course, when we talk about Web3 or metaverses in general, so they are based on this nice idea, great idea of sort of co-creation, decentralizing decision making, and so on. So I think
Right.
that's quite a lot. There's quite a lot in common when we think about the mentality here in the Nordics. And then also there are real issues that we want to tackle, such as sustainability. Sustainability is one important issue. Of course, there's been a lot of debate about how sustainable the whole crypto economy is. So we need to solve that somehow, and that's an example of challenges that we really want to work with Cornerstone Land, because metaverses will be here. The new economy that's based on NFTs and cryptos and blockchains will be here. There's no stopping that. But what we can do is we can investigate what's the best way of making it happen.
Right. Let's stick on that for a while, because that was one of the main themes I wanted to have in this conversation, and the whole special we're doing for Scandinavian Mind issue 3, and this sort of series of podcasts that we're publishing. The headline of it all is kind of values in the metaverse, because in creating new worlds, we have to talk about what kind of environments we want to have there, what kind of interactions we want to have there. And I think, going back to what's defined as the Web 2 world, with these big social networks and these sort of big centralized entities, it hasn't been completely easy, let's to say the least. And there's been quite a lot of criticism to these big platforms in terms of how they're handling misinformation, and how people are treated, and how young people are using these mediums, so forth. You are now in the cusp of creating kind of Web3 environments, the new frontier, and obviously the main argument here is that it's decentralized, it's more like controlled by the people, you don't have this central entity. But I still feel like you are the guys creating these environments, right? You are designing them, you are producing them. Can you talk a little bit about how you talk about this internally at ZOAN, in terms of what responsibility you have, and also if it relates to the Nordic values at all that you mentioned before?
Of course. So first of all, of course, at the moment we are sort of in charge, because we have created the metaverse, and we are making the plot sales happen and so on, because someone needs to kick it off. But the idea is that the community plays a very significant role there, that we are discussing about methods, how the community can take control over the issues that are happening inside the cornerstone land, or on the cornerstone land. And then also, like, already a good example is that of course we can, if you have an idea of a house you want to build on your plot, so that's perfect. But if you already own some like 3D virtual assets that you want to bring there, so that's of course very welcome. So this year will be sort of a transition period where we have like kicked this off, and during the spring there will be sales going on. We are creating the game mechanics there, a lot of content talking with a huge number of partners who are interested in collaborating with us and trying to figure out like a way how to make this all running so that it can be decentralized, because we don't want to rule there. We just want to get it started. And then, of course, one really big issue is that's more like maybe a little bit like a technical issue. But of course, like this interoperability between metaverses, that's something that would be so great to achieve. That would mean that if you own something in one metaverse, or you have a virtual identity that looks like something, so you could sort of grab your belongings and go and visit another metaverse and take everything you own with you. So that's like, in the long term, that's really what will be needed to make this metaverse economy happen like a big time.
Right. And let's stick on that for a while, because that has been kind of the main arguments around Web3, is that you're kind of in control of your own possessions, and that you actually can, if you buy a digital sneaker from Artifact, which create virtual sneakers as NFTs, for instance, or if you have like an outfit in a gaming environment, that you're supposed to be able to bring this in other worlds, in other metaverses. And I guess in theory, when you think about it on a blockchain level, I'm sure it kind of works. But what you're saying is it has to work in the actual sort of rendering in the metaverse, right? You have to bring it in.
Like,
and talk a little bit about the challenges there.
yeah, like, of course, like if there's like we would have this photorealistic metaverse where you have your very realistic avatar, and then you would like to go to another metaverse that is more like a cartoonish metaverse. So of course,
Right.
just the idea of how will I look like there, that's something to figure out. And then maybe like one of the biggest issues is, of course, the ownership, like what you own, the NFTs, stuff like that. How do you do that? But those are so technical issues that I must say that I'm not the best person to talk around those. It's more like, I guess, people who are very into the sort of the technology of Web3. So I think that you should ask those guys.
But do you have a sense of where we are in terms of development? This is obviously something that's being worked on right now to kind of solve.
It is being worked on, but it's still like we are in the beginning. So it's not like something that will happen like this spring. It's a bigger issue to solve. It's not really dependent on us only. Right. But then maybe I could also say, like, I think that overall, if we think about the metaverse, so, and I can say that because I know that many people are like that, oh, is this some sort of a fad, or is this just like a bubble? Who would use money to do these things? So no, it's very much reality, and it's coming. And maybe because we are still living on this Web 2.0 time, so it's hard to understand. I think the easiest way to understand is if you look at what people who are like 15-year-old kids do. They feel very comfortable going to different metaverses, really using money to buy assets. You get a nicer sword or some great outfit if you pay money, and that's like considered quite normal. So what if we would sort of bring the best out of those worlds and make something like even better, that's also like based on, as I said about Nordic values, that's also based on something else than this old world. So what I'm really thinking, and to be honest, I'm not an expert on NFTs or blockchains as such, but I think those ideas where we really need to reevaluate the concept of value. They are really exciting because now today value is mostly, we talk about money, everything, no matter how creative you are, it's still all about money, really. So what if we could really connect the term value to some concepts like sustainability or creativity or things like that? What kind of society would that be? So I think that these sort of like bigger issues, the sort of the fundaments of economy and the fundaments of what we base our life on, I think these are really interesting issues. And they, at least for me, I'm not a gamer myself, but I feel that these kind of things are very exciting.
No, super exciting. And perhaps we should talk a little bit about the other work you do with ZOAN, because I mean, as I've understood it, this is kind of like almost like a personal project for you guys, or it's really it's from within ZOAN, and you are launching it yourselves. It's not for a commercial client or a big partner like that. But so, and I'm guessing then because of that, it's a long-term project. It's something you want to develop over the years. Am I right?
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's only the metaverse, like that's one thing. But then, as I said, so we are talking about our sort of virtual identities and things like that. So in a way, metaverse is only a tool for that. But of course, what's so great with that is that it sets no boundaries to creativity. And that's why it's a great playground for our people, but also for people who are interested in creating virtual worlds or letting their fantasy fly free. So it's just a very exciting project in that sense also.
And can you talk about the other work you do, just to get a sense of ZOAN as a business? Because it is my sense when it comes to virtual worlds and 3D environments is some people talk about it as if it's not here, it will come in the future, we're not ready yet. But it's also my understanding that there's a lot of things happening on kind of the business to business, in the business to business space, and that there's actually a need for these environments. Perhaps not so much in consumer space yet, but can you talk a little bit about the type of work you do and the type of clients that you have?
Of course. Yeah. So many of our clients are actually just like, they are large companies that want to utilize 3D and gaming engine technology for marketing, training, different kind of visualizations or experiences. We work with a variety of companies, but what we mostly do is that we create these 3D environments and help them to make their clients say wow. So that's as simple as that. And for instance, a driver during the past years, of course, pandemic has been one big reason why many companies have started this development. But as it seems now that the world has changed so much that we are living more in this hybrid world. So video meetings are very common. You don't travel to another country just to have that 2-hour meeting. So the virtual presence has become more and more important. So what we are doing is that we are enabling their clients, for instance, to travel and see their facilities. We have, for instance, one client actually in Sweden who is doing a lot of recruiting, and it's very challenging even for their own people to go and see the actual business they are in, because it's a dangerous environment. So what we are doing is that we are creating an immersive experience of that environment showcasing how fantastically digital everything is nowadays. And that's something that they can then utilize in their recruiting when they are trying to get somebody from the other side of the world to move to Sweden to work for them. So they have something else to show than just like pictures or videos on their website. So that's an example of a typical project we are working on.
That's super interesting. And let's go back to this thing you mentioned with traditional designers and architects. And I find that super fascinating. And just as an anecdote, I was stopped on the street just the other day by one of the most famous interior designers here in Stockholm. And he stopped me. He's been doing some of the most fantastic stuff in interior design and creating spaces. And he's like, Conrad, I need to know more about the metaverse. We need to get into it because, one point I've been making is, I think there is a need for a transition here, and I'm curious how you guys are working with it, because we are also interviewing kind of digital fashion companies creating digital fashion, and to me, there needs to be collaboration here. You can't only have the new type of designers that are experts in 3D. You need kind of the traditional knowledge of creating architecture, creating textures, materials. Obviously in the Nordics we are famous for some of our mid-century designers and architects and so forth. What's your approach to this?
Yeah, this is a very important issue, and the metaverse should definitely not be a place for metaverse enthusiasts only. But I think it's so important to build that bridge between the digital world and the real world. I was just, I also had this week, I had a discussion with an art curator who's been working around the world, and we had so many ideas how we can combine existing pieces of design with fantasy, and that's one way of utilizing the metaverse. Or if there are like say we have an architect who has designed around the world, so it's physically impossible to see all the work in a same space. You would need to fly around all the time. But in a metaverse, you could have a collection where it features there's a theme where you can like pick the most important pieces that represent a certain theme, and you could have them there on display. And then so that's like only one example. And I think that, for instance, architects and designers, as I guess that most of them use already like 3D based tools, digital tools when they design. So I would say that you are halfway there. What we would basically do is that we would take the 3D model and then just make it look very realistic, and then you could have it there. You could show it to your clients, potential clients. There's also a new audience inside the metaverse. If you want to sell a piece of your design as an NFT, that's also possible. So I think that it's really it's not so hard. Just like say that, look, let's try this on, and we'll help you to get there. And it doesn't have to be us. Basically, any company who can do 3D can do that. But we really want to make it easy to do the transition and start trying out what like how would my work look like in a metaverse. But on the other hand, what kind of sort of tools or creativity or concepts would the metaverse allow me to do that haven't been possible yet? So it's very exciting.
And have you had any of those moments? Have you met with this, let's say, traditional designers or traditional architects? Perhaps showed them your technology with this, sort of picture perfect metaverse of Cornerstone Land. Have you been in those conversations where you sort of seen the light bulb, get off up above their heads?
Oh yeah, many times, and already before the cornerstone, like for instance, uh, one of the virtual Helsinki pieces is the Alvar Aalto's home, so
Mm,
architect and designer Alvar Aalto's home, which is here in Munkkiniemi in Helsinki, and that we've modeled the first floor of that home, and it's so very realistic that many people, when they see it for the first time, they're like, ah, okay, so you've been filming there. And then we will say, no, no, it's all 3D. That look, we can take the tank chair out, or we can put it back in, or change the color. So then they're like, what? That this looks so real. So
yeah.
that's really great. So it's amazing. So if you are an architect and you are listening to this, so the 3D like 5 years ago was a totally different thing compared to what we can do now. And
Right.
also in real time, it doesn't even have to be rendered. So in real time, the computers nowadays can do amazing things. And also a little bit technical fact, but for the cornerstone, so of course, as many of you might know, so normal laptops cannot really handle like a big 3D environment, but we will be using this pixel streaming technology there, which means that all the content will be rendered in a cloud, and then you can use just like a normal laptop to move around in there. So that's also where technology comes to help, and you can really have that fantastic photorealism.
No, I think that's great knowledge to have, and it helps people to understand how we are going to be able to use these technologies going forward. So, are there any other sort of practical tips you would give to an architect or a designer who wants to learn more, wants to start with this? I mean, obviously, it's about just learning more about it and sort of increasing your knowledge. But is there any a specific place you think they should start? Other than Cornerstone Land, of course.
Yeah, well, if you just want to start working with 3D, so Unreal Engine, it's free of charge, a very
Yeah.
powerful tool, and the internet is full of tutorials on how to start working with Unreal Engine. So I would just start playing around. There are communities you can ask for help, and of course, then there are companies that can help you to do that final polish or whatever is needed, or help to add the piece of design to your own plot in cornerstone land, for instance.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah, it's pretty easy to get started. And actually, even though when we talk about gaming engine, it sometimes sounds really technical, but what we have realized internally here is that if I mean the most important thing anyway is that you have that eye for good design, what looks good, how the light should be, and so on. After that, it's quite easy to learn Unreal Engine, but it doesn't necessarily go the other way around. I mean, you can use the Unreal Engine how much you like, but if you don't have that eye for good design, so that might be harder to learn than utilizing the gaming engine.
Right, right. And have you looked at all in how what role fashion will play in this? I mean, from my perspective, fashion is kind of way ahead of the interior design world when it comes to NFTs and the metaverse and digital uh, garments and so forth. We have several examples. I just mentioned Artifact. There is a company called The Materialized. We also have the Fabricant, which the one of the co-founders is of Finnish descent, and we have them featured in the magazine as well. From your perspective, I mean, in creating the worlds, how easy or difficult is it to include digital garments, digital textiles, and where do you see the opportunity there?
Yeah, well, of course, the opportunity is enormous, and it seems like the fashion industry, or at least the digital fashion industry, has already like seized the opportunity to some extent. Uh, and I think it's quite natural because, of course, we are talking about virtual identities, and clothes are such an important part of that, both in real life and in virtual life. So it's super exciting to see all that creativity. So yes, I believe that the digital fashion is something that will just like keep on increasing as people get more and more people get into the virtual world. I was like, to be honest, I've been like following the NFT market, and I just purchased my first NFT. And a big factor was that what is that character wearing and how does it look like? So I think that this is so like the clothes and how avatars look like and so on. They are very intimate things, and that's why they are going to play a huge role in Metaverse.
Wonderful. We're gonna wrap it up soon. I just want to peek into the crystal ball here in a way, and have you look, say 5-10 years ahead. Where is Cornerstone Land then? How much has it grown? How many people are there? What's your vision for your own metaverse?
Well, our target is to get 1 billion people to come to Cornerstone Land one way or another. And we hope that we can really both like do it in a way that it helps to solve really important issues, that we can stick to our values that are very much Nordic values, and at the same time also offer fantastic experiences for the people who come to Cornerstone Land, both like artistic and design experiences, entertainment, and also like help businesses to learn to operate in the metaverses. So there's quite a lot of things to do, actually.
Well, it's an entire world, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be like a sort of a world of its own. So, yeah, you better stay tuned. I hope that we can get some results soon when people start building their fantasy plots or their fantasy houses on their plots. I'm
Good,
personally, I've been teasing our team that I want the horses and a horse stable. When can I have it? But so far, I think it's stuck in the development queue or something like that, because I haven't seen any horse stable yet. But maybe one day.
I can imagine an internal request like that will become further down the line on the development queue.
It is, but yeah, that's true.
Listen, we're going to wrap up. I just want to quickly mention also, I think it's worth mentioning that you are actually living the brand at such that you have a sort of digital headquarters for ZOAN as well, and that you actually are working in it. Am I right there?
Yes, so the virtual headquarters of ZOAN is naturally a part of the Cornerstone Land, and at the moment, I'm sitting in a very physical sofa in our office. But soon, the idea is that it will be very democratic once again if we have a virtual headquarters that is accessible for all the people who work for ZOAN from all around the world. So that's definitely the plan for the well. It grows along with the Cornerstone Land.
Laura Olin is the Chief Operating Officer and partner of ZOAN, which are the creators of the Metaverse Cornerstone Land. Laura, thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thanks, Conrad. It was very nice.
You have listened to the Scandinavian Mind podcast, our show about the intersection of lifestyle and technology. Every Friday, our team of editors and contributors talk about the current trends and events within business, tech, fashion, design, culture, and more, from the Nordic perspective, of course. Every Wednesday, you'll hear Values in the Metaverse, an interview podcast covering digital fashion, NFTs, and Metaverse. Or Konst, our podcast about the current and future world of art, hosted by my colleague Roland Philipp Kretschmar. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter to stay updated on the latest news and learn about upcoming talks and events. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.